What's up, besties? Welcome to another episode of Nadia's Bookish World. I am Nadia. If you are new to my channel, welcome. We are talking all things books, all things love of books, and so let's get into it. For this episode, we are going to be doing a book recommendation book tag. So I've seen other book talkers do this challenge, and so it's just a few questions of recommendations based on a specific category. Okay, so welcome to this channel. Like I said, we are talking all things books, and if you know me, if you've watched past episodes, you know that I pretty much read any and everything, but I tend to go towards romance, historical fiction, fantasy. Those are probably my top three favorite genres to read, but I'm always interested in reading other genres, and I typically read either on my phone or via audiobook, and I love it. Like, audiobooks give me life. They save so much time, and it's just so convenient to either read on your book, on your phone, or your Kindle. Physical books, I have to really be in the mood for it. So if you are anything like me and you read via those forums and you like those types of books, then this is the channel for you. This is the place for you. But yeah, besties, we're just, talking books and relaxing. And if you have a cup of coffee or tea or whatever you like to drink, we're just going to be discussing books and make it a fun environment. And so if I say anything crazy, just, we're besties. So, just ignore it. Just, you already know me. You already know me. And if you are not already following me on Instagram, then it's the same handle, Nadia's Bookish World 86. And you can follow me there for all of the book recs and all of the things, right? So let's get into it. So this, like I said, is a book tag. And so the first category is a book you tell people is your favorite. So there's actually a lot of books that I tell people that are my favorite. But I think the book that I tell people the most that is my favorite is The Mixtape by Brittany Cherry. So The Mixtape is a very emotional book. And that's one of the things, like, I love books that are going to make you cry. Books that are going to put you through the ringer, right? And so The Mixtape, what I love about The Mixtape is that you see the journey of loss, you see the journey of found friendship, you see the journey of single parenthood, you see the journey of finding your place in this world without your favorite person there standing beside you, right? And so there's a healing journey in this book. There is a Brittany Cherry, when she writes books, she really talks about mental health. She really talks about, self-love and self-care. And so this book is full of that, right? And so I love these characters. I love this story so much. If you have not read The Mixtape, if you've not read anything by Brittany Cherry, this would be a good start. The Mixtape was actually the first book of Brittany's that I read a few summers ago, and I absolutely fell in love with the characters, with her writing style. Like I said, she's going to put you through the ringer. She is going to make you an emotional wreck, but then she will give you a big hug at the end, and you will definitely feel like you know these characters, like you've been on this journey with them, and like they are your friends, like they are your family. So definitely check out The Mixtape. That is definitely a book that I tell people that is my favorite and that I will constantly always recommend for someone who's either new to Brittany Cherry or maybe just getting back into reading, or someone who doesn't mind the emotional triggers, right? So, number 2, a book that is your guilty pleasure. So this, I couldn't just pick one book. I had to pick an entire series. And that would be the Fallen Men series by Gianna Darling. So I started this series, I believe, last summer with my friend Corey. She had She had read the series, she had buddy read the series, and was just absolutely raving about this series and had done an interview with the author. And so I read book one, not even knowing what I was really walking into. So it is a motorcycle story where you have a motorcycle club and you have each of the members of the club tell their individual stories in each book, right? And so I believe there's 6 books in so far. The series is not completed yet, but I would definitely search up trigger warnings for this book. It is sort of a dark romance. It is very heavy on a lot of heavy subjects, and so this is a series that is absolutely my guilty pleasure. Absolutely. Because you have the characters King and Cressida. I love that they're probably my favorite couple so far in this series. And the way Gianna writes this series is so poetic. It's written so beautifully. The prose is incredible. It's nothing like I've ever read before, where you really get an inside look at each of these characters who they're going through this journey, right? So you get the POV of each of these characters and exactly what they're thinking, how they felt, their perspective, the ins and outs, the dark secrets, the skeletons in the closet. You get all of that in this series, right? So you have King and Cressida, and then you have Zeus, which is King's father. You have Zeus and Lulu. You have Lionel and Harley Rose. Harley Rose is King's sister and Zeus's daughter. Then you have Nova and Lila. You have Priest and Bee. You have so many characters, and you have this found family that they take care of each other, they love each other, they give each other a hard time, but they will fight to the ends of the earth for each other. They will do whatever they have to do to protect. They will do whatever they have to do to make sure that the other ones are happy. And you have very possessive male characters and alpha males, and you have the women that are going to stand by their side no matter what. And it is such a beautiful series. I love it. I absolutely love it. So that is absolutely one of my favorite guilty pleasure series. I mean, I can't just pick just one book because they all work together. They all fit like a puzzle together. So it's definitely a guilty pleasure book. Number 3, a book that everyone else loved but you didn't. I'm gonna probably get a lot of hate for this, but It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. Now, I read the book and I did not know what to expect when I went into the book. I just saw that it was a very popular book. I'd seen it on TikTok, I'd seen it on Instagram, and had no idea. I'd read one other Colleen Hoover book before and enjoyed it. And when I read this, I wasn't aware of the trigger warnings in this book. And so it did catch me off guard that this was sort of viewed as a romance book. And I didn't find it to be that at all. And so I was a little disappointed in that aspect. But I guess what I didn't love about the book was that there's a lot of harsh and difficult, serious trigger warnings that is sort of glorified and amplified and made to look like, you know, this is what love looks like. And I couldn't. I read it cover to cover, and I understand how, you know, some people can make those decisions, but that book, I didn't cry. It didn't really tear me up, but it just kind of made me like, okay. I kind I put the book away and I'm just like, how do I unpack all of this? How do I get rid of this? How do I unfeel, unread, unsee all of that? So that was a book that personally was not one of my favorites. I know people swear up and down by this book, and it just, for me, just wasn't a favorite of mine. If you like it, by all means, I'm not telling you not to read it, but for me personally, it was a lot. It was a lot. So the next book, a book from a genre you don't typically read. So a book from a genre that I don't typically read, I did not read a lot of time travel books until maybe like this last year. And one book that was on my list was called The Surviving Trace by Kalia Reed. The Surviving Trace is a time travel book, and I have not read very many time travel books. I think maybe other than The Time Traveler's Wife or, something from my childhood that I read, but I really wasn't versed in time travel books. And so this book was actually, I listened to the audio, and it was beautifully written. It was comedy, it was drama, it was emotional, it was all the things, right? So it was narrated very, very well. And The Surviving Trace, it kind of goes back and forth. So you have sort of a dual time lapse, and you get to see the choices, like if this hadn't have happened, then this wouldn't have happened. If this person wasn't born, then this would have, so you kind of you see all of that. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. If you enjoy time travel books, if you enjoy things like the Outlander series or anything of that nature along those lines, then I would definitely recommend that you read this book, because like I said, I absolutely loved it. It surprised me that I loved it so much. And like I said, this was a book from a genre that I don't typically read. And so I was pleasantly surprised by The Surviving Trace. So definitely put that on your TBR if that is something that you enjoy. The next, a book that deserves more hype. So I've said this before. If you have followed me, if you've seen some of my other videos, or you've followed me on other social media platforms, you know that a book that I will shout to the ends of the earth about is The Songbook of Benny Lament. When I read this book, I was introduced to this book, I believe, 2 years ago. I believe that this was released right around the 2020, like mid 2020. And so I love this book so much. This is an interracial romance. This is set in the 1960s. This has musical background. I feel like it was sort of like a Motown feel to it, and Motown / mafia feel to it. And Benny and Esther are so iconic. Their storyline, their love is so timeless that I literally fell in love from beginning to end with this story. I cried a couple of times. I laughed. I felt that emotion. You feel the end, that Benny is willing to go to the ends of the earth, not only for Esther, but for her entire family. And nothing that was said or done could deter him from that decision, right? And this book, the cover of the book is so beautiful. The meaning behind the book is so impactful, right? And this is not an easy book to read, but it is powerful, it's meaningful. You walk away not forgetting the characters or the story. Like, all of this stays with you once you leave that final chapter. And it's so beautifully written. Amy Harmon did an amazing, amazing job. And this was my intro to Amy Harmon. And so it will always hold a special place in my heart for that very reason. But I think that this book definitely deserves more hype than it gets. And I once again will shout to the rooftops about this book forever. The next category, a book that you think will make an amazing movie or TV show. So I couldn't just pick one, so I picked two. So these are relatively new releases. The first is Dear Yesterday by Lindsay Reread. And once again, I believe I've talked about this as well. I read this last summer or last spring. And it is a small town women's fiction that centers leaving home, finding yourself, having to go back home to face some hard truths. It talks about the foster care system. There's, issues of abandonment. There's issues of finding your place in the world and finding those people that you may not be blood related, but you still are family. So it's a found family. There is a little bit of romance in it. I just believe that this story would touch so many hearts, would prick so many hearts, and would make an amazing either miniseries or movie on TV. And it feels like that Lifetime movie that you would just kind of curl up, or Hallmark movie that you would, not necessarily Hallmark, Lifetime, that you would curl up and just watch and bawl your eyes out, but still walk away feeling so full and so incredibly thankful that this story is being told. This book, once again, this was the debut book from Lindsay, and I love this book so much. I do. It's a quiet book, but it's impactful and it's powerful, and there's so many layers. If you have not read it, please put this on your TBR because it will be worth it. I promise you, if you love women's fiction, if you love stories that have meaning, stories that will help you heal and grow and found family and facing those hard skeletons in your closet and, getting over heartbreak and finding out who you really are, this is the book for you. This is absolutely the book for you. So I think that would be an incredible TV show or movie if they decide to make that. I'm all for that. I would absolutely sit there and watch it. The other book that I think would make an incredible movie is the newly released The Build Up by Tati Richardson. I'm so proud of this book. I love this book. This would make a great, maybe like a rom-com, maybe. I think Tati had said that she could see a Queen Latifah type movie, The Last Holiday, or something to that effect. This book has so many layers. The opening scene is iconic. I felt like I was watching scenes from a movie reading this book. It did not even feel like I was reading a book when I was reading this. It felt like I was watching a movie play out between the pages of the book. And it's so beautifully written. It's a workplace romance. You have two Black architects that are working on a project together, and they are graduates from an HBCU university, and the things that they go through, the found friendship, the attraction, the workplace intricacies, So beautifully written. You feel like these are your friends. You feel like you know these characters are real people, right? Ari and Porter, I will forever be in love. This book was a breath of fresh air. I will continue to say that. I read a lot of books and I read a lot of different types of books, but of course, romance is absolutely my favorite genre. But this book was so beautifully written and so written in a way that you felt like you were a part of the story, right? You, this was a book written for readers. This is a reader's book, if that makes sense. It's that good. So pick that up. It's available, I believe, on Amazon, but put this on your TBR because this book would make an incredible movie. An incredible movie to see Ari and Porter on screen. Absolutely. I would vote for that. I would be 100% behind that. The next question or category, a book reread the most. I typically don't reread books. I may have like a few favorites that I go back to and read excerpts from, but if I had to choose, it would be Western Waves by Brittany Cherry. I read the ebook and then listened to the audiobook, so I've sort of reread it maybe 2 or 3 times. And the love that I have for this book, this series, but Western Waves in particular, is this book has my heart forever, and I've definitely talked about it in previous videos. I've shouted to the rooftops on social media. So you already know Western Waves. I will probably continue to reread it and re-annotate it, and because I just love it so much. This Brittany Cherry can do no wrong, and this is one of the best. Damien and Stella, love them so much, so much. A book with your favorite characters. Now, this I really had to think about. There's actually a series and a standalone that I enjoy. The standalone is The Owl and the Pussycat by Dahlia Rose, and you have Ella Covington and Duke Richard Vance. This is a historical fiction, and you basically have a duke and a thief that fall in love, and it's an incredible journey. It's such an incredible journey. I love Ella. I love Duke Covington. Like, I love them so much. I do. So it's Duke Richard Vance and Ella Covington. So Duke Vance and Ella, y'all, just read the book. Read the book. Wherever it's available, please, The Owl and the Pussycat. This storyline, this love story, it was so entertaining. It was sweet. You get a rush of adrenaline just reading this journey between the two, their interactions. I love it so much. So please do yourself a favor, put this on your TBR. I absolutely adore these characters. I carry them with me. I still think about them. I may have to reread this book because, like I said, they are my favorites. They are absolutely my favorites. Absolutely. Another favorite, and it was hard. I do have certain favorite books in this series, but I have to talk about the characters in the Rosebud series by Naima Simone. I've talked about this already, I believe, and when I first read The Road to Rosebud, the first book in the series, I knew that I would love this found family. You have this small town, you have these characters that love and care for each other. In my favorite book, Christmas in Rosebend, you have Nessa and Wolf. So Wolf is a part of the Dennison family. This Dennison family, well, and I thought about this recently. I guess what I love so much about the Dennison family is they almost feel like watching This Is Us. If anyone who's a fan of This Is Us and love the Pearson family knows that they will argue, they will fight, but they will protect each other to the end, right? They will defend each other to the end, right? That's how I feel about the Dennison family. The Dennison family will open their arms for strangers. They will help one another. They will protect one another. They don't always get along, which is like you see with, regular families. But they love as hard as they fight. They will fight for you. They will fight you because, the families butt heads, but they will love you to the ends of the earth. This Dennison family, love them. And so I can't just pick one character because that's impossible. But just know the Dennison family, they have your back. They absolutely have your back. So if you read The Road to Rosebend, you will know what I'm talking about. If you read the entire series, you will absolutely get glimpses of each character, each member of the family, their significant others, their friends, their foes, all of it, and you will understand what I'm talking about. A book you thought that you would hate but ended up loving. I honestly thought I wouldn't like A Man Called Ove by Frederick Backman. So I'd seen this book all over social media, and I'm just thinking, it looks overhyped. I'm not going to read it, right? But then I read the synopsis, and you basically have this grumpy old man who is misunderstood, and the things that he sort of goes throughout the story. I read the book, and I was pleasantly surprised. I felt such compassion for this character. I ended up loving him. He reminded me of so many characters in books and movies that I loved and enjoyed. And go read the book. Go read the book. I believe the movie is out already. Tom Hanks plays Ove. And I just love the storyline so much. I do. I love this. Like I said, I didn't think that I would like it, but I ended up loving it, and it became one of my favorites. And so I would absolutely recommend A Man Called Ove. If you have not already read it, it's definitely worth the hype. And the last category, a book you wish you could read for the first time. That was difficult because a book I wish I could read for the first time. There's a lot of books that I wish I could go in with, like go in blind and know nothing about and experience all of the goodness, the sad, the emotion, experience all of this for the first time. But I will say this is a duology, The Chronicles of Salak by Amy Harmon. Once again, another Amy Harmon book. So The Chronicles of Salak, this is, you have the first girl child and you have the second blind son. I read both of these books not really knowing anything. I think this was probably my second Amy Harmon book after the Songbook of Benny Lamont. And so this, like I said, Amy writes every single genre, right? And so you don't know what you're going to get with Amy. You get romance, you get historical fiction, you get fantasy, you get it all, right? And so The Chronicles of Salak, you have this mystical, magical world, and it's so beautiful. There's so many layers to each story. It did take me a long time to read both books. I read it on Kindle, and there's a lot of layers. There's a lot of detail, and so it is worth the read. If you could listen to I believe it's available, if you go to Kindle, it's available to listen to, and that's how I read it. Was I listened to the audio, and it was so, you guys, it was so beautiful. It was so beautiful, and you fall in love with these characters. It's a quiet story. You have layers of so many emotions of compassion, of fear, of secrecy, of determination, of so many different things. Give it a chance. The Chronicles of Selah by Amy Carmen. The first book is The First Girl Child, and the second book is Second Blind Son. You can read it. They're interconnected standalones. You can technically read it by themselves, but it's so much more powerful. It means so much more if you read them together, back to back. So the first one, First Girl Child, Second Blind Son. Do yourself a favor. Please do that. Please put all of these books on your list. That is the book tag for this episode. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you had fun. If you have any other categories or books that you want me to discuss, feel free to write them in the comments. Click the subscribe button below if you have not. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you next time. I love you all. I love you all. I love you all.